What if the most powerful being on Earth was never meant to be a hero? What if she was meant to be a god? Let me take you to a world where everything you know about Invincible changes. Mark Grayson wakes up floating. Not falling, not dreaming, floating. His eyes snap open, and there's nothing beneath him but air. His bedroom ceiling drifts 3 feet above his head. His blankets hang suspended in zero gravity, frozen in the moment they slipped off his body. His heart pounds. Mom? His voice cracks. Mom? Debbie Grayson bursts through the door, coffee mug in hand, and stops dead. The mug slips from her fingers. It doesn't hit the ground. It just hovers, rotating slowly in the air beside her son. Mark, she whispers. And in that whisper, there's something beyond maternal concern. There's recognition. There's the weight of secrets finally crashing down. Your father's genes, she breathes. They're finally kicking in. Mark doesn't understand. Not yet. He doesn't know about Viltrum. Doesn't know about empires spanning galaxies. Doesn't know that his father's bloodline carries the potential for something terrifying. All he knows is that he's flying, and it feels right. He tears through the roof of his house. No suit, no training, no plan. Just a 17-year-old boy rocketing into the sky with nothing but instinct and adrenaline. The air rushes past his face. The ground shrinks below him. Houses become toys. Cars become specks. He laughs. This is what he was born for. This is... A figure appears in front of him. No warning, no sound. Just there. Mark slams to a halt so fast the air cracks around him. He hovers, heart racing, staring at someone who shouldn't exist, someone who makes his stomach drop. She's young, maybe his age, red hair cascading past her shoulders, green eyes that seem to glow with their own light. She wears a form-fitting pink suit with an atomic symbol centered on her chest, concentric rings circling the emblem like a target. A tape drifts behind her, but not from wind. It moves like it's underwater, suspended in invisible currents. She doesn't speak, she just watches him, like a scientist observing a bug. Who, Mark Grayson? Her voice is calm, almost bored. 17 years old, son of Nolan and Debbie Grayson, half Viltrumite, half human. Your powers manifested approximately... She tilts her head. 4 minutes ago. His blood runs cold. How do you... I know everything, Mark. She raises one hand. The sky changes. Clouds swirl and reform. The air itself seems to bend around her fingers, pink light cascading outward like ripples in water. Mark watches as the atmosphere transforms, literally transforms, the molecular structure of reality, rewriting itself at her command. He tries to move. He can't. She's not touching him. She's not even looking at him. But his body is frozen, locked in place by nothing he can see. She says, or rather, I've been aware of your potential. The son of Omni-Man, the half-breed who might become something worth noticing. She floats closer. Her eyes aren't hostile, they're curious. My name is Atom Eve, and in case you're wondering, she gestures, and Mark feels his body release. He gasps, stumbling backward in midair. Yes, I'm stronger than you, faster than you, more powerful than your father. Mark's voice comes out strangled. That's not possible. My dad is Omni-Man. Yes, I know. Her expression doesn't change. I know what he is, I know what he's capable of, and I'm telling you, Mark, he couldn't stop me. Neither could anyone else on this planet. She turns away from him, hovering in the sky like it's the most natural thing in the world. Come with me. There's someone you should meet. She brings him to a house. It looks normal. Suburban. The kind of place you'd drive past without a second glance. But Mark notices the details now. The way the grass grows a little too perfect. The way the flowers bloom in patterns that seem almost mathematical. The door opens before they reach it. Inside stands a woman Mark has never seen before. She's older, maybe Debbie's age, with kind eyes and a knowing smile. There's something about her that feels familiar. Like seeing a face in a dream you can't quite remember. Mom, Eve says. This is Mark Grayson. Mark stares. Mom. The woman, Polly, nods slowly. I know who he is, Samantha. I've known since before he was born. You're Eve's mother. Mark's head is spinning. That's not, I've read the files. Eve's parents are Adam and Betsy Wilkins. There's no government files, Polly says simply. They're incomplete. Eve touches the wall as she passes it, and Mark watches the paint shift color at her fingertips. Pink light dances across the surface, harmless but undeniable. I was born different, Eve explains. My powers aren't like other heroes. I don't just control energy. I control matter, all of it. Every atom, every molecule, every particle that makes up existence. She turns to face him. Most people with abilities like mine have limitations, mental blocks, safeties installed to prevent them from becoming too dangerous. And you don't. She smiles. It's not a comforting smile. No, Mark, I don't. In a bunker beneath the Pentagon, Cecil Stedman watches satellite footage on a screen. His scarred face is expressionless. His eyes are cold. Donald Ferguson stands beside him, tablet in hand. We've confirmed the energy signature. That's Atom Eve. She's been active for years, but this is the first time she's displayed anything close to this level of... I know what it is, Donald. Cecil's voice is quiet, dangerous. He's spent his entire career managing threats, superheroes, supervillains, alien invasions. He's manipulated, coerced, threatened, and when necessary, eliminated. That's how the Global Defense Agency works. That's how Earth survives. But this, he watches the footage again. Eve freezing Mark Grayson mid-flight, the clouds reforming at her gesture. The sheer casualness of it all. She didn't strain. She didn't focus. She simply willed reality to bend, and it bent. Tell me about her, Cecil says. Donald scrolls through files. Samantha Eve Wilkins, adopted daughter of Adam and Betsy Wilkins. No criminal record, no known weaknesses. She's been operating as an independent hero since age 12, but she's never joined a team, never accepted government contracts, never responded to any of our outreach attempts. So we have no leverage. None. Cecil leans back in his chair. His mind is racing through options, contingencies, backup plans, nuclear scenarios. None of them apply here. You can't threaten someone who can disassemble your weapons at the molecular level. You can't blackmail someone who can rewrite memories. We need to find an angle, he says finally. Everyone has one. Find hers. Nolan Grayson stands in his kitchen, staring out the window. He's been on Earth for decades. He's played the role of hero, husband, father. He's smiled to the cameras and saved cities and built a life that, against all Viltrumite expectations, he's actually come to enjoy. But he never forgot his mission. Viltrum doesn't forgive. Viltrum doesn't forget. And when the Empire calls in its debts, Nolan will have to choose, his family or his people. He's always assumed he was the most powerful being on the planet. The Guardians of the Globe were never a real threat. His son was an asset, not an obstacle. And the humans, they were ants, capable of surprising resilience perhaps, but ultimately insignificant. He saw Eve's display. He felt the energy signature from miles away, a disturbance in the atmosphere that made his Viltrumite senses flare with warning. He needs to know if she's a threat. He finds her on a rooftop. She's sitting on the edge, legs dangling over the city, watching the sunset like she has nowhere else to be. She doesn't turn when he lands behind her. Omni-Man. Eve. The silence stretches. Nolan studies her posture, her breathing, the way her fingers rest on the concrete. She's completely relaxed, too relaxed. I wanted to talk, he says, about your abilities. Did you? Her voice carries a hint of amusement. Nolan doesn't like it. You're powerful, he continues. More powerful than anything I've seen on this planet. More powerful than me, perhaps. Definitely more powerful than you. She turns finally, and her green eyes meet his blue ones. There's no fear, no deference. Just calm, absolute certainty. I know what you are, Nolan. I know where you come from. I know why you're really here. Nolan's body tenses. His hands curl into fists. You don't know anything. I know everything. She stands, and the air around her shimmers with pink light. I've known since I was a child. I could have exposed you decades ago. I could have stopped you the moment you set foot on this planet. Why didn't you? Eve tilts her head, considering the question. Because you haven't done anything worth stopping yet. Later that night, Nolan sits across from Debbie at the dinner table. His face is carefully neutral. His voice is steady. There's something you should know about Eve. Debbie looks up from her plate. Samantha? Mark's friend? She's dangerous. Nolan's jaw tightens. More dangerous than anyone realizes. She has no limits, Debbie. No weaknesses. She could destroy this entire city with a thought. Debbie frowns. She's a hero, Nolan. She's been protecting people since she was a child. That's what she wants us to think. He leans forward, voice dropping. I'm telling you this because I'm worried about Mark. If he gets too close to her, if he trusts her, she could hurt him. She could hurt all of us, and there would be nothing anyone could do to stop her. Debbie is quiet for a long moment. Then she reaches across the table and takes her husband's hand. You're scared of her. Nolan doesn't answer. 5 miles away, Atom Eve sits in her bedroom. Her eyes are closed. Her breathing is slow. She heard every word. She felt the vibrations of Nolan's voice, traveling through the air, the walls, the distance between them. She doesn't need to be close to hear. When you can manipulate matter at the molecular level, sound waves are just information, and information is something she collects effortlessly. Dangerous, she whispers, testing the word. She's been called many things over the years. Powerful, unpredictable, a god walking among mortals. Maybe Nolan is right. She opens her eyes and looks at her hands. Pink light dances across her palms, reality bending around her fingers like water around stones. She could end him, right now. She could unravel every molecule in his body and scatter them across the solar system. She could erase his memories, rewrite his DNA, turn him into something that couldn't threaten anyone ever again. But that's not who she wants to be, not yet. Mark Grayson is flying for the first time. Cecil Stedman is plotting. Nolan Grayson is afraid. And Atom Eve, the girl who could be a god, is making a choice. She's going to let this play out. She's going to see what the son of Omni-Man becomes, and when the time comes, she'll decide whether this world is worth saving. Drop a comment right now. What would you do with unlimited power? Would you be a hero or something else? Smash that like button if you want to see where this story goes next, because trust me, this is just the beginning.
2 weeks. That's how long Mark Grayson has been living with the weight of what Eve showed him. The woman who calls herself Polly, the secrets she carries, the way she looked at him, like she already knew exactly what he was. And in that house, in the Grayson household, there's something else now. Something unspoken. Every meal, Debbie watches Nolan differently. Every time Mark walks through the door, there's this flicker, just for a second, where her eyes dart between father and son, like she's waiting for something to crack, for the mask to slip. Nolan feels it too. You can see it in the way he grips his fork, just a little tighter. The way his smile doesn't quite reach his eyes when Mark talks about saving people. Something's building, and everyone in that house knows it. Mark finds Eve on a rooftop downtown. She's sitting on the edge, legs dangling over nothing, pink energy flickering absently around her fingers, as she reshapes the concrete beneath her into intricate patterns. Flowers, fractals, impossible geometries that shift and flow like living things. He lands behind her, awkward, still getting used to the whole flying thing. Can I ask you something? Eve does a turn around. You're going to ask why I don't fix everything? Mark hesitates, because yeah, that's exactly what he was going to ask. I mean, you can literally reshape matter. You could end world hunger, cure diseases, fix... I know what I can do. Her voice isn't defensive, it's tired. Watch, she raises her hand, and suddenly Mark's mind is flooded with images. Memories that aren't his. A drought-stricken village. Children with swollen bellies. Eve, younger, standing in a barren field, her hands glowing pink as she wills crops to grow. The crops grew. They grew faster than anyone expected. Thicker, hardier. And then the locusts came. Not normal locusts. Something new. Something that had never existed before. A species that evolved specifically to feed on what Eve had created. They stripped the fields bare in 3 days. Then they moved on to the neighboring farms, the neighboring towns. Thousands lost everything. 60,000 people displaced, Eve says quietly.
A food crisis that spread across 3 countries, all because I thought I could outsmart nature. The images shift. A hospital. Eve standing over a child dying of cancer. She reaches out, her power humming, and the tumor dissolves. The child lives. For 11 days. Then the cancer comes back. Aggressive, mutated, spreading through the child's body faster than before. Faster than any treatment can match. And now it's spreading to other patients. A new strain that resists every drug, every therapy. I saved 1 child, Eve says, and killed 14 people in that ward. She finally turns to look at Mark. Her green eyes are ancient, weary. Every action has consequences, Mark. Every change ripples outward. I've spent years learning to see those ripples, to understand what my interventions will cause. And even then, she shakes her head. Even then, I'm sometimes wrong. Mark doesn't know what to say. So what, you just do nothing? I choose carefully. Eve stands, and the pink energy fades from her hands. I help where the ripples are predictable, where I can see the outcome clearly enough to trust it. The rest, she gestures at the city sprawling beneath them, the rest requires something I don't have. What's that? Perspective I haven't earned yet. Knowledge I'm still gathering. She looks at him, and for a moment she almost smiles. That's where you come in. Mark tries to be normal after that. He really does. He's standing in a volunteer center 2 days later, sorting canned goods into boxes, when he sees her. Amber Bennett.
She's arguing with a coordinator about distribution routes. Something about the Eastern District being underserved, about people falling through the cracks.
Her voice is passionate but controlled. She's not yelling. She's insisting. Mark doesn't realize he's staring until she turns and catches him. You're new. Yes. First time. He winces internally. Smooth. Really smooth. But Amber just smiles. It's a knowing smile, like she's already figured him out. Well, new guy. You're holding up the line. She gestures at the boxes in his hands. Those go to the truck on 5th, unless you're planning to deliver them personally. There's something in her tone. A challenge. A test. Mark finds himself wanting to pass it. I could, he says. Deliver them personally, if you need the help. Amber studies him. Her eyes are warm brown, sharp, intelligent. She's seeing something in him, something he can't quite identify. I think, she says slowly, that we could probably use all the help we can get. They work together for 3 hours. Mark learns that Amber volunteers every weekend, that she's been doing it since she was 14, that she believes in showing up, in being present, in ways that matter more than just fighting. It's the most normal he's felt in weeks. When they're done, they're sitting on the curb outside, sharing a bag of chips from a vending machine. The sun is setting. Amber's hair catches the light. So, she says, you're not just here for the volunteer hours, are you? What do you mean? I mean, you've got that look. She takes a chip, considers him, like you're trying to figure out what matters, like you're carrying something heavy and you're not sure where to put it down. Mark's throat tightens. I don't know, he says finally. I guess I'm just trying to figure out what kind of person I want to be. Amber nods slowly. Yeah, she says, I get that. She looks at him, really looks, and something passes between them. A recognition, a connection. Mark, right? Yeah, I'm Amber. She holds out her hand. He takes it, and for just a moment, the weight on his shoulders feels a little lighter. But the universe isn't done with Mark Grayson. 300 miles above Earth's surface, something is approaching. Alan the alien streaks through the void, his orange skin catching the distant light of stars. His single eye scans the planet below, his neural implant processing data, searching for the warrior his scanner indicated. Urath. That's what his equipment said, the planet that might hold the key to defeating the Viltrum Empire. But as he breaks atmosphere, something happens. His scanner glitches. The readings spike, not from the surface, but from everywhere, from the planet itself, from the very air around him. The numbers don't make sense. Power levels that shouldn't exist. Energy signatures that defy classification. A presence. Something that sees him. Alan's ship, a small coalition scout vessel, suddenly veers off course. Not by malfunction.
Not by accident. It's being moved. The controls go dead in his hands. The navigation system rewires itself. The hull groans as invisible forces reshape it, redirecting it, guiding it toward a destination that Alan didn't choose. He can feel the power now, like a hand wrapped around his entire vessel, like gravity itself has decided to have a conversation. His ship lands in an empty field outside the city. The landing is gentle, almost polite. Alan steps out, his muscles tensed, ready for anything. What he finds is a young woman with red hair and green eyes standing in the middle of nowhere, watching him with an expression of mild curiosity. "Hi," Eve says. "You're a long way from home." Alan straightens. He's a Unipan, bred for combat, trained from birth to fight. He's faced Viltrumites and lived. He's survived things that would break most beings. But this is something else. "I'm here to evaluate," he says carefully, "to find a warrior capable of—" "I know why you're here." Eve's voice is calm, almost bored. "I've known since you entered the solar system. Your ship's energy signature is distinctive." She takes a step toward him. The air around her hums with potential. "Here's the thing, Alan. I could have stopped you in orbit. I could have turned your ship inside out before you ever saw the atmosphere. I could have erased your memories and sent you back to the Coalition with nothing but questions." Alan's eye narrows. "Why didn't you?" Eve smiles. It's not a friendly smile. "Because I want you to remember this conversation. I want you to go back to your superiors and tell them exactly what you found." She raises one hand. The ground beneath Alan's feet shifts. Not breaking, not threatening, just moving. The earth itself ripples and flows, carrying him backward, putting distance between them. "Earth isn't what you think it is," Eve says. "And I'm not someone the Coalition can recruit or manipulate or point at their enemies like a weapon." Alan opens his mouth to respond. And then he's flying. Not under his own power. The air itself is carrying him, lifting him up, 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 until he's hovering above the field, staring down at a figure that looks impossibly small against the landscape. "I could end your mission right now," Eve's voice says in his mind. She's not speaking aloud anymore. "I could make sure the Coalition never learns what I can do. But I'm choosing not to." She appears beside him, floating effortlessly. No ship, no suit. Just her, suspended in the sky, like it's the most natural thing in the world. "Tell Thaddeus that Earth has a guardian. Tell him that the Viltrumites aren't the only power in this universe anymore. And tell him—" She pauses. Her eyes lock onto his. "Tell him that if the Coalition wants to survive what's coming, they'll stop treating this planet like a resource to be exploited." Alan stares at her. His scanner is screaming now. Power levels that shouldn't exist, readings that break every model he's been taught. "Who are you?" he breathes. Eve tilts her head, considering. Someone who's been watching for a very long time. Someone who's been waiting for the right moment. She gestures, and a portal opens in the air beside Alan. A tear in reality, showing the vast darkness of space beyond Earth's atmosphere. "Go home, Alan, and deliver my message." Alan hesitates. He's a warrior. He doesn't back down. He doesn't retreat. But he's also not stupid. He flies through the portal, and it closes behind him. In the silence that follows, Eve descends slowly back to the field. Her expression is unreadable. She pulls out a small device, a communicator that shouldn't exist, technology far beyond anything Earth has produced. "He's on his way back," she says into it. "The Coalition will know about me within the week." A voice on the other end. Feminine. Familiar. Good. It's time they understood what they're dealing with. Eve looks up at the sky, at the stars beyond. Thaddeus is going to have questions. Let him ask. The voice pauses. "And Eve? Yeah? Be careful. If the Viltrumites learn what you can do before we're ready." Eve's jaw tightens. "I know." She ends the call. For a long moment she stands alone in the field, her pink energy flickering around her fingers. Then she looks toward the city. Toward Mark. 2 weeks, she murmurs. And everything's already changing. But here's the thing. In a house on the other side of town, Nolan Grayson is watching the news. Watching reports of an unidentified craft entering and leaving Earth's atmosphere. Watching footage of something, someone,
moving through the sky with impossible grace. His eyes narrow. He's seen a lot of things in his long life, a lot of powers, a lot of weapons. But this, and if there's one thing Nolan knows, it's that new things are either useful or dangerous. Drop a comment right now. Do you think Nolan suspects what Eve can do? And more importantly, what happens when a Viltrumite realizes there's someone on Earth who might actually be able to stop him? Smash that like button if you're ready for Chapter 3. Because trust me, the real storm is just beginning.
Chapter 3. The Massacre That Wasn't.
1 week. That's all it took. 1 week after the Coalition's message reached Viltrumite space, and everything changes. Because somewhere out there, in the cold void between stars, a signal arrived. And the orders that came back? They were simple, brutal, accelerate the timeline. But let me tell you what you need to understand about Omni-Man, about Nolan Grayson. He's been waiting, watching, preparing. For years he's worn the mask of Earth's greatest hero, and for years he's known exactly what he's here to do. Conquer, subjugate, prepare this world for Viltrumite rule. The Guardians of the Globe, they're not teammates to him. They're obstacles. And now the order has come to remove them. Guardians HQ. Night. The emergency beacon pulses red against the darkness, and one by one, they arrive. The Immortal descends from the sky, his cape catching the wind. War Woman lands beside him, her mace already materializing in her grip. Red Rush blurs into existence, a streak of crimson lightning. King Aquarius emerges from the water below, his blue scales glistening. Darkwing steps from the shadows themselves. Green Ghost phases through the wall. Martian Man teleports in a flash of green. Black Samson crackles with barely contained electricity. 8 of Earth's mightiest heroes, standing together, ready for anything. And then Omni-Man lands.
What's the emergency? The Immortal's voice carries command, authority.
He's been doing this for centuries, and he knows when something feels wrong. Nolan's response is simple, quiet, almost gentle. There isn't one. The first blow catches Red Rush mid-sentence. The speedster never sees it coming. One moment he's asking a question, and the next, Nolan's fist connects with his jaw at velocities that would shatter mountains. Red Rush crumples, instantly. But he's not dead, not yet. War Woman swings her mace with the force of a falling moon, and Nolan catches it. Catches it like it's nothing, like she's nothing. He twists, and the weapon flies from her grip. Attack! The Immortal's voice echoes through the night. They come at him together, all of them. Green Ghost phases through his body, trying to destabilize him. Darkwing flings explosive discs that detonate against Nolan's chest.
Black Samson unleashes a torrent of electricity that would fry any normal man.
King Aquarius summons a hydroblast that could level a building. And Nolan smiles. His fist connects with Aquarius. The Atlantean king flies backward, crashing through the headquarters wall. Martian Man tries to teleport behind him, but Nolan grabs him mid-materialization and throws him into War Woman. They tumble together, a tangle of green and grey. The Immortal charges. Their bodies collide with the force of 2 freight trains, and for a moment, just a moment, Nolan's strength against the Immortal's centuries of combat experience. But Nolan isn't fighting to win. He's fighting to erase. His hands find the Immortal's throat. He lifts, squeezes. "I trusted you," the Immortal chokes out. "That was your mistake." And then, pink light, everywhere at once. It floods the headquarters like sunrise breaking through a nightmare. Soft, warm, absolute. And in the center of that light stands a figure in a pink suit, her red hair catching the glow like a halo. Atom Eve. She doesn't raise her hands. She doesn't need to. The light is already everywhere, already inside everything. "Sit down, Nolan." His body moves before his mind can process the command. His legs buckle. His knees hit the concrete. The Immortal drops from his grip, gasping. And that's when you see it. That's when you understand what Eve actually is in this timeline. What she's always been. She's not attacking him. She's rewriting him. "Your brain," she says, and her voice is almost gentle, almost sad.
Do you know how many electrical signals are firing in there right now? Billions. Every second, every thought, every instinct the Viltrum Empire spent 1,000 years programming into you.
Nolan's eyes widen. He tries to move, tries to speak. He can't.
That's the thing about biology, Nolan. It's just chemistry, physics, atoms arranged in patterns, following rules. Eve steps closer, and the pink light pulses brighter.
And I can see every single one.
She reaches out, her fingers hover inches from his forehead. The part of you that needs to conquer, the part that sees humans as cattle, the part that killed the original Guardians in another timeline because they were in your way. Her hand drops. I could unmake it, right now. Every Viltrumite instinct, every programmed loyalty, every ounce of that Empire's poison, I could reach into your mind and turn it off.
Nolan's eyes are screaming. You can see it. The terror, the rage, the helplessness. And then his body slumps, unconscious. The pink light fades. Eve turns to the Guardians. They're frozen, watching, trying to process what they just witnessed. What did you do to him? War Woman's voice is barely a whisper. Put him to sleep, temporarily. Eve kneels beside Red Rush, her hands glowing. He'll wake up in a few hours, confused, angry, but alive. Her fingers touch the speedster's jaw, and the damage undoes itself. Bone realigns, bruises fade. His breathing steadies. One by one, she moves through them. Aquarius, Martian Man, Darkwing. Each injury reversed, each wound closed. I'm going to need you to forget this happened. The Immortal stares at her. Forget? The attack, Omni-Man's betrayal, all of it. Eve meets his eyes. You'll remember coming here for a false alarm. Nothing happened. Everyone went home. You can't just erase. I can. Her voice carries no threat, no arrogance, just fact. I can do almost anything. That's not the point. She steps back. The point is that if you remember this, you'll try to fight him, and if you fight him, you'll lose, not because you're weak, because he spent years studying every move you'll make, every weakness you have. And I'm not ready to let you die yet. The pink light pulses one final time. The Guardian's eyes glaze over, their expressions soften. Confusion replaces horror. They remember the alarm. They remember coming here. They remember nothing. 3 hours later, GDA headquarters. Cecil Stedman sits behind his desk, his scarred face illuminated by a single lamp. Donald Ferguson stands beside him, arms crossed. So you're telling me, Cecil says slowly, that you put Omni-Man to sleep and wiped the Guardian's memories of his attack? Yes. And you're just telling me this, now. Eve sits across from him, perfectly calm. And because I need your help with what comes next. My help? Cecil leans forward. Do you have any idea what you've done? What you've prevented? If Omni-Man had succeeded. But he didn't, because you stopped him. His voice sharpens. A 19-year-old girl stopped the most powerful being on the planet, like he was a misbehaving child. Eve's expression doesn't change. I'm not a girl, Cecil. I'm not even really human. Not anymore. She stands. I was designed to be a weapon. The government's ultimate weapon. The only thing that stopped me from becoming that was a man named Brandyworth. Brandyworth is dead. I know. But before he died, he gave me something. A choice. And I've been making choices ever since. She walks to the window. Nolan Grayson is going to wake up soon, and when he does, he's going to have questions about what happened, about who stopped him, about why his mission just got infinitely more complicated. I need you to make sure those questions don't lead him to his son. Cecil's eyes narrow. Mark doesn't know what his father is, not yet, and I need to be the one to tell him. Night, the Grayson household. Mark sits on his bed, staring at his phone. Amber's contact glows on the screen. He's typed 3 different messages and deleted all of them. His window slides open. Eve. She steps inside, her pink suit catching the moonlight. But something's different. Something in her eyes. We need to talk about your father. Mark sets the phone down. What about him? I stopped him tonight. Stopped him from what? From killing the Guardians of the Globe, all of them. He called them to headquarters under false pretenses and tried to murder them. Mark's on his feet. That's not, he wouldn't. He would, he has. Eve doesn't blink. Not in this timeline, not tonight. But I've seen his memories, Mark. I've seen what he's capable of. What he was sent here to do. Sent here? Sent by who? The Viltrum Empire. And there it is. The truth, laid bare between them. Your father isn't a hero, Mark. He's an advanced scout, a conqueror. He came to Earth to prepare it for Viltrumite rule, and he's been waiting for the right moment to strike. Mark's hands are shaking. No, that's not. I know my dad. He saves people. He's been doing this for 20 years. 20 years of positioning, building trust, identifying threats, learning every weakness this planet has. Eve's voice softens. I'm sorry, Mark. I'm so sorry. But the man you know, the hero, that's the mask. The real Nolan Grayson is underneath. Mark sinks onto the bed, his whole body trembling. What do we do? That's why I'm here. Eve sits beside him. I can fix him. Fix him? Reach into his mind, turn off the programming, make him, him, without the Empire's poison. Mark stares at her. You can do that? I can do almost anything, Mark. I told you that. But here's the thing. Eve takes his hand. I need your permission. My permission? His mind, his identity, everything that makes him who he is. She squeezes his fingers. If I do this, I'm changing him, fundamentally, without his consent. And that's a line I've spent my whole life trying not to cross. Mark's jaw tightens. But if I don't cross it, he's going to keep trying, keep killing, keep serving an empire that wants to enslave everything and everyone you've ever known. Your mother is downstairs. She deserves to know. She deserves to be part of this decision. Mark stands, walks to the door, then stops. What would it do to him? Eve doesn't answer immediately. I don't know. The programming is deep, woven into his identity. Removing it might change everything about who he is. Or it might just free him. Mark turns back to her. Or it might break him. Yes. The word hangs in the air between them. Mark looks toward the hallway, toward the stairs, toward the living room where his mother sits, unaware that her entire life is about to shatter. And then he looks back at Eve. Show me what you saw in his memories. Eve raises her hand. Pink light gathers at her fingertips. Are you sure? Mark's eyes are wet, but his voice is steady. I need to know what my father really is. The light touches his temple, and Mark Grayson sees. He sees worlds burning. He sees civilizations crushed beneath Viltrumite heels. He sees his father standing atop mountains of corpses, smiling. He sees the truth. And it breaks him. Downstairs, Debbie Grayson hears her son scream, and somewhere in the night, Nolan Grayson sleeps, dreaming of conquest, dreaming of empire, dreaming of a son he doesn't know is about to make a choice that will change everything. Because in the morning, Mark will stand over his father's unconscious body, and he'll ask the question that will define the rest of his life. What would removing his programming actually do to him? And Eve? Eve will tell him the truth. She doesn't know, but she's willing to try. Drop a comment right now. Would you let someone rewrite your parents' mind if it meant saving the world? Because that's the choice Mark has to make. And trust me, whatever he decides, nothing will ever be the same. Smash that like button if you're ready for Chapter 4. Because the real storm, it's just getting started. Chapter 4. The Right to Choose. The question hangs in the air like smoke after an explosion. Mark's voice cracks when he asks it. This 17-year-old kid who just watched his father try to murder his heroes, who just learned that the man who raised him, the man who taught him to be good, to be kind, to be heroic, was never any of those things. So, what happens to him? Atom Eve stands in the ruined headquarters of the Guardians of the Globe. Pink energy still crackles around her fingertips. The Immortal lies against a shattered wall, his breathing ragged but steady. War Woman clutches her side, where Omni-Man's fist connected. Red Rush's jaw is a mess of broken bone and blood.
And somewhere beneath this building, in a GDA containment cell designed for threats far less dangerous than what they just captured, Omni-Man waits. Eve turns to face Mark. Her green eyes hold something ancient, something tired. That depends on what you're willing to accept. Mark's hands shake at his sides. You said you could fix him, that you could, the words you used were, rewrite his neural pathways. What does that actually mean? The pink glow fades from Eve's hands. She steps over a chunk of ceiling that crashed down during the fight, her boots crunching against glass and debris. When she speaks, her voice is careful, measured, like she's explaining nuclear physics to a child, which, in a way, she is. Your father was born on Viltrum. He was raised on Viltrum. Every thought he's ever had, every belief he holds about strength, about destiny, about what makes a civilization worthy of existing, all of it was shaped by an empire that has spent thousands of years perfecting the art of conquest. She meets Mark's eyes. The Viltrumites don't just conquer planets, they broke them, remake them, and they start by breaking the people who might resist. Mark swallows hard. So, he's been brainwashed. Not in the way you're thinking. There was no single moment of conditioning, no hidden code words or secret triggers. It's deeper than that. It's culture, identity. Your father genuinely believes that what he was sent here to do is right, that weakening Earth, softening it for conquest is an act of mercy, that a quick death under Viltrumite rule is better than the slow chaos of human self-destruction. And you can change that? Eve nods slowly. I can see the architecture of a person's mind, Mark. The connections between neurons, the pathways that thoughts travel. Every belief is just a pattern, a habit of firing synapses, and patterns can be interrupted. I could reach into his consciousness and sever the connections that bind him to Viltrum's ideology, leave his memories intact, every battle, every conquest, every moment of his life, but strip away the loyalty, the devotion, the certainty that the Empire is right. The teenager shows through, the kid who grew up with a father who tucked him in at night, who told him bedtime stories about alien worlds, who laughed at the dinner table and fixed his son's bike, and seemed, in every way that mattered, like a good man. You'd be taking away who he is. I'd be giving him the chance to choose who he becomes. The words land like a punch to the chest. And then Debbie Grayson steps forward. She's been silent since Cecil's agents dragged Nolan's unconscious body into the containment lift. Silent while Eve explained the extent of his injuries, the ones she'd inflicted to stop him. Silent while the truth of her husband's mission, his purpose on Earth, his plan for their family, settled into her bones like ice. Now she stands in front of her son, and her face holds something Mark has never seen before. Fear, not of the monster his father revealed himself to be, fear of the questions she never asked. He was going to make me a vessel. Her voice is hollow. That's what you said. That's what Viltrumites do. They find compatible species. They breed with them. They use them. She looks at Eve with eyes that are red from tears she refuses to shed. Was that ever real? Any of it? The fishing trips? The anniversary dinners? The way he looked at me when Mark was born? Eve's expression softens. I can't answer that. Only Nolan knows what he felt. But I can tell you this. The Viltrumite mission recommends infiltration, bonding, creating emotional ties that make conquest easier. She pauses. But recommendation isn't the same as requirement. And your husband, he stayed on Earth far longer than most Viltrumite scouts stay on their target planets. He built a life, a family, a home. Does that matter? Debbie's voice cracks. If he was going to kill everyone I've ever known, if he was going to let me watch him murder our son's heroes, our world's defenders, does it matter if part of him cared? No one has an answer. Mark moves closer to his mother. He doesn't touch her, doesn't know how anymore, to offer comfort when everything they thought they knew has collapsed around them. But he stands beside her. That's something. What do we do? He asks. Not as a hero, as a son. If Eve can change him, if she can make him, not what Viltrum made him, should we let her? Debbie looks at her son, at the boy who inherited his father's powers and his mother's heart.
at the teenager who just learned that his entire existence was meant to be a tool of conquest, and who still, somehow, wants to find a way to save the man who created him. That's not our choice to make. Her jaw tightens. Your father is a lot of things. A liar, a conqueror, maybe a monster, but he's still a person, Mark. And no one, no matter how powerful, no matter how certain they are that they're right, has the authority to reach into someone's mind and remake them without their consent. Mark turns to Eve. Is there another way? Before Eve can answer, Cecil Stedman's voice crackles through the comm system. The GDA director sounds tired, the kind of tired that comes from decades of managing threats that could end the world, and knowing that the biggest one is currently locked in a cell beneath his feet. Grayson, Wilkins, we have a situation. Mark looks at Eve. She nods. Omni-Man is awake. The containment facility is buried 300 feet below the Pentagon. The walls are reinforced with experimental alloys designed to withstand nuclear blasts. The air is recycled through 17 independent filtration systems, and the cell at the center of it all, the one built specifically for the day Omni-Man might turn, has never been tested. Until now. Eve descends through the lift alone. Mark wanted to come, but Debbie stopped him with a hand on his arm. Not yet, she said. Give us a chance to understand what we're dealing with. The lift doors open onto a corridor of harsh fluorescent light and armed guards who look like they're trying very hard not to shake. Cecil stands at the observation window, his scarred face illuminated by the monitors that display Omni-Man's vital signs. Heart rate, brain activity, every metric that science can measure. None of them can measure what's happening inside Nolan Grayson's mind. He's been conscious for 6 minutes, Cecil says without turning around. Hasn't said a word. Hasn't moved. Just sits there, waiting. Eve steps up to the glass. Inside the cell, Omni-Man sits on a metal bench with his hands folded in his lap. His suit, the grey and white uniform that Earth has trusted for decades, is torn and stained with blood. Some of it belongs to the Guardians. Some of it belongs to his son. But his face is calm, serene almost, like a man who has accepted his fate. Let me talk to him. Cecil turns, studies her. You're not going to. I'm not going to do anything unless he forces my hand. But he deserves to know what I can do, what I'm offering. Eve's voice hardens. And I deserve to look him in the eye before I make a choice that will change who he is forever. Cecil hesitates. Then he nods to the guard at the door. The cell opens. Omni-Man doesn't look up until Eve steps inside. When he does, his blue eyes, eyes that Mark inherited, that Debbie fell in love with, meet hers without flinching. So you're the one who stopped me. His voice is measured, curious, like he's speaking to a scientist about an unexpected variable in an experiment. I'm the one who can do more than stop you. Eve walks to the center of the cell. The pink energy that surrounds her casts strange shadows on the walls, makes the harsh fluorescent light look almost gentle by comparison. I know what Viltrum sent you here to do. I know about the infiltration protocols, the breeding recommendations, the timeline for conquest. She tilts her head. I know that you've been on Earth longer than any scout in Viltrumite history, that you had a son, a wife, a life that wasn't part of the mission. Omni-Man's expression doesn't change, but something shifts in his posture, a slight tension in his shoulders, a narrowing of his eyes. You've done your research. I've done more than research. Eve raises one hand, and the air between them shimmers with pink light. I can see inside you, Nolan. Every neural pathway, every belief, every loyalty that Viltrum burned into your consciousness before you could speak. I can take all of that away, leave you with your memories, your knowledge, your skills, but none of the conditioning, none of the empire. Just you, whoever that is. Omni-Man stands. The movement is slow, deliberate, a predator assessing a threat. And why would you offer me that? Why not just kill me? Because your son asked me not to. Something flickers across Omni-Man's face. For just a moment, the mask slips, and underneath, there's something raw, something almost like pain. He's a good kid. The words come out rough. Better than I ever was. He's the reason I'm giving you a choice. Eve lowers her hand. The pink glow fades. But you need to understand what I'm offering. Freedom. Real freedom. The chance to decide what you believe, instead of being ruled by what Viltrum taught you to believe. Omni-Man steps closer. Close enough that Eve can see the faint lines around his eyes, the grey at his temples that shouldn't exist in a being who ages so slowly. And if I refuse, then you stay in this cell until we figure out what to do with you. Or until Viltrum comes to check on their scout. Or until your son grows strong enough to face you himself. Eve meets his gaze without flinching. But you should know, I'm not the only one who can see inside minds. Your son is half Viltrumite. And humans have a capacity for adaptation that your empire has never accounted for. Omni-Man is silent for a long moment. Then he laughs, a sound that echoes off the reinforced walls. You're offering me freedom, but you're asking me to let you reach into my mind and tear out a piece of who I am. I'm asking you to let me remove the piece that someone else put there. There's no difference. There's every difference. Eve's voice sharpens. You didn't choose to be Viltrumite. You didn't choose to be born into an empire that conquers worlds and exterminates populations. But every choice you've made since you came to Earth, every lie you told, every secret you kept, every moment you pretended to be something you weren't, that was you. That's the part I can't change. That's the part you have to own. Omni-Man's jaw tightens. For a moment, the Viltrumite warrior shows through. The being who slaughtered the guardians of the globe without hesitation. Who looked at his son and saw not a child but a soldier to be molded. Then he looks away. I was born on Viltrum. I was raised to believe that strength is the only truth, that the weak exist to serve the strong. His voice drops. If you take that away, what's left? I don't know. Eve's answer is honest. That's the point. You get to find out. Omni-Man turns back to her, studies her face like he's seeing her for the first time. You were born with your powers, not made, not engineered. Born. Yes. Then you understand what it means to be something greater than the world around you. To look at humanity, its chaos, its weakness, its endless cycles of self-destruction, and wonder if maybe, just maybe, they'd be better off under someone else's control. Eve's expression doesn't waver. I was born free, I'll die free, and I will never ever use my power to take that freedom from someone else. Even from me. Even from you. She steps back. Think about what I've offered. Talk to your son. Talk to your wife. Decide if you want to spend the rest of your life serving an empire that sees you as a tool, or if you want to discover who you might become without them. The cell door opens behind her. Eve walks out without looking back. In the observation room, Mark Grayson waits. His mother's hand rests on his shoulder. Cecil watches the monitors with the focused intensity of a man calculating odds. And Eve stops in front of the boy who asked her to save his father. He's not going to consent to the procedure. Not today, maybe not ever. She meets Mark's eyes. But he's thinking about it, and that's more than I expected. Mark nods slowly. What do we do now? We wait. We prepare. We hope that Viltrum gives us enough time to figure out what comes next. Eve glances at the monitors, at the figure sitting alone in the cell, head bowed in thought. And we remember that even the strongest beings in the universe can change, if they choose to. Mark looks at his mother, at the woman who raised a half-human son and loved a Viltrumite husband and built a life on a foundation of lies she never knew existed. Mom, what do you want to do? Debbie's eyes are dry. Her voice is steady. I want to talk to my husband, alone. She looks at Cecil. And then I want to decide with my son whether the man who lived with us for 17 years is someone worth saving. Cecil nods. His hand moves to the comms panel. Take all the time you need. And in the cell below, Omni-Man sits in silence, his empire's mission unfinished, his family's trust shattered, his mind caught between the conditioning of 1,000 years and the possibility of something new. The choice he makes next will determine the fate of Earth, but that choice is his to make. Drop a comment right now. Would you give your enemy the chance to choose redemption, or would you force their hand? Because Eve just played the most dangerous game imaginable. She gave a Viltrumite the one thing his empire never allowed him to have: agency. Smash that like button if you're ready for Chapter 5, because Viltrum is watching, and they're about to find out that their favorite scout has gone rogue.
3 days. That's how long Mark Grayson has been carrying the weight of his father's betrayal. 3 days of staring at the ceiling of his bedroom, replaying every moment, every lie, every time Nolan ruffled his hair and called him son, like it meant something. Like he wasn't just preparing livestock for the Viltrumite Empire. But today something changes. Let me take you inside the GDA medical facility, where the air smells like antiseptic and desperation. Eve stands in front of a holographic display, pink energy dancing between her fingers as she manipulates the three-dimensional model of a brain. Not just any brain, Nolan's brain. Mark paces behind her. Debbie sits motionless in a corner chair, her hands wrapped around a cup of cold coffee she hasn't touched in hours. Cecil watches from the observation deck, arms crossed, that signature scar on his jaw catching the fluorescent lights. "I've been thinking," Eve says, and her voice carries that quiet confidence that makes everything feel possible. "What if we don't rewrite him at all?" Mark stops pacing. "You said that was the only way." "I said it was the most direct way." She turns, and those green eyes hold something new: hope. "But your father isn't just a Viltrumite soldier. He's also the man who chose to stay on Earth for 20 years, who built a life, a family." Her gaze flickers to Debbie. Something in him wanted that. The conditioning just buried it under duty. Cecil's voice crackles through the intercom. "You're suggesting we suppress the conditioning instead of removing it?" "Temporarily," Eve nods. "Just long enough for him to feel again, to see us without the Empire's filter." She steps toward Debbie, crouching down to meet her eyes. "You deserve to know who he really is, and so does Mark." Debbie's grip tightens on that untouched coffee cup. Her knuckles go white. "And if the real Nolan is exactly who he showed us, a conqueror wearing a hero's cape, then at least we'll know," Mark says quietly, "and we'll deal with it together." The words hang in the air. Together. Something Debbie desperately needs to hear right now. Because for 3 days, she's been replaying every moment of her marriage. Every tender touch. Every late-night conversation. Wondering if any of it was real, or if she was just a convenient vessel for Viltrumite breeding stock. Eve stands. "I can do this, but I need everyone to understand the risks." "Which are?" Cecil's voice is flat, calculating. "The conditioning runs deep. Centuries of indoctrination, layered over every thought, every emotion." Eve's hands glow brighter. "When I suppress it, he'll be vulnerable. Everything he's buried is going to hit him at once. Love, guilt, grief." She pauses. "It could break him." Mark steps forward. "Or it could save him." There it is, the choice, the gamble. Debbie sets down the coffee cup, smoothing her shirt with trembling hands, and looks at her son. Really looks at him. 17 years old, shoulders squared, trying so hard to be the man his father never was. "Do it," she says. The containment cell is sterile. White walls, white lights, white noise humming through invisible speakers. Nolan lies on a metal slab, still unconscious from their last encounter, his chest rising and falling with the slow rhythm of someone who has no idea his entire worldview is about to collapse. Again. Eve positions herself at his head. Her hands hover over his temples, pink light cascading down like water finding its course. Mark stands at her shoulder. Debbie takes his hand. "Whatever happens," Mark whispers, "I'm glad you're here." Eve's eyes close. The light intensifies. "Now I need you to picture this. Imagine every thought you've ever had being stripped away. Every belief, every loyalty. Imagine standing naked in your own mind. Nothing left but the raw truth of who you are underneath." That's what happens to Nolan. And, for the first time in centuries, he screams. It's not a warrior's scream, not a battle cry. It's the sound of a man drowning in his own memories. A man suddenly seeing every face of every person he's killed, every world he's conquered, every lie he's told, and feeling the full weight of every single one. Debbie's grip on Mark's hand becomes crushing. Nolan thrashes on the slab, and Eve's light wavers, but holds. Sweat beads on her forehead. This is taking everything she has, keeping the conditioning suppressed, while his mind tears itself apart. Then he sees them. Debbie, Mark, standing there, watching him. And something shifts. His breathing slows, his eyes focus. He looks at Debbie, and I want you to understand what crosses his face, because it's something that hasn't been there in longer than human civilization has existed. Love, real love, unfiltered by duty, uncontaminated by mission. You, he whispers, and his voice cracks, breaks. You're beautiful. Debbie releases Mark's hand. She walks forward, step by step, until she's standing over the man who was her husband. The man who was going to use her body and her son to serve an empire. And she slaps him, hard. The sound echoes off the sterile walls. You lied to me, she says, her voice shaking. Every day, every night, every time you told me you loved me. Nolan doesn't defend himself. He doesn't justify. He just looks at her, like he's seeing her for the first time. I know. His voice is barely audible. And I'm sorry. Mark has seen his father do a lot of things. He's seen him bench press semi-trucks. He's seen him fly through the atmosphere like it was nothing. He's seen him tear through the guardians of the globe like they were made of paper. He's never seen him cry. But that's what happens. Tears slide down Nolan's face, and his whole body shakes with it, and the sound that comes out of him is so raw, so broken, that Mark feels something crack inside his own chest. This is his father, the real one, the one buried under 1,000 years of Viltrumite conditioning, and he's terrified. The moment stretches, holds, breathes. Then Eve's light flickers. I can't maintain this forever, she says through gritted teeth. The conditioning is fighting back. It's too deeply integrated. Nolan's eyes widen. He grabs Debbie's hand, desperate, pleading, and when he speaks again, the words tumble out like he's running out of time. Mark, Debbie, listen to me. His voice strains against something invisible, something clawing its way back to the surface. Viltrum knows. They know I failed. They'll send someone. Someone stronger? Cecil's voice cuts through the intercom. Someone who won't make my mistakes. Nolan's jaw tightens. They'll investigate. They'll see what Eve can do. His eyes lock onto her, and there's something new there. Fear. Real fear. A human who can rewrite reality itself. Mark steps closer. Who will they send? Nolan's face contorts. The conditioning is coming back. Eve's suppression failing. Centuries of programming reasserting itself. But before it does, he manages 4 more words. Anissa. They'll send Anissa. His eyes go blank. The emotion drains away, like someone pulled a plug. When he speaks again, his voice is flat, cold, Viltrumite. Your assessment is correct. Anissa will be dispatched to evaluate my failure and neutralize any threats to the Empire. Mark stares at his father, no, at the thing wearing his father's face, and feels something settle in his stomach. Heavy. Final. That wasn't him, Eve says quietly. That was the conditioning, but he's still in there. We saw him. We saw a glimpse, Debbie replies, her voice is hollow. And now we have to live with that. Later that evening, Mark finds himself standing outside a familiar apartment building. The lights are on in a second-floor window. Amber's window. He hasn't called her in days. Hasn't texted. Hasn't explained why he disappeared from the volunteer center without a word. Everything with his father, with Eve, with the Guardians, it's consumed him entirely. But standing here, looking up at that warm glow, he realizes something. He can be honest now, really honest. Not just about being a superhero, but about everything. His father, the Viltrumite Empire, the weight pressing down on his shoulders every single day. He could tell her the truth. His hand hovers over the buzzer. Then he pulls back. Because here's the thing about truth. It has consequences. If he tells Amber everything, she becomes part of this. Part of the target on his back. Part of the war that's coming. Can he do that to her? Can he not? The light in her window flickers. A silhouette moves behind the curtain. Mark steps back into the shadows, hidden, watching. The silhouette pauses, like she's looking for something. Someone.
Then the curtain falls back into place, and the light goes out.
Mark walks away, somewhere in deep space, past Mars, past the asteroid belt, past the edge of the solar system itself.
A figure moves through the void.
Anissa, her tan skin and short black hair are silhouetted against distant stars.
Her blue eyes track the trajectory of a small blue planet growing larger in her vision. She received her orders 3 cycles ago. Investigate Earth. Assess the anomaly that stopped Omni-Man. Report back to Viltrum by any means necessary. She doesn't know what she's flying toward. Doesn't know about the pink-haired woman who can rewrite reality with a thought. Doesn't know about the hybrid sun who might be the key to everything. All she knows is that something on that little blue planet made Nolan Grayson fail his mission, and she is going to find out what. Her body cuts through the vacuum of space, faster than sound, faster than light, a weapon wrapped in flesh and fueled by centuries of conquest. The first test is coming. Mark doesn't know it yet. Eve doesn't know it yet. But they will. Drop a comment right now. Who do you think wins when Anissa arrives? The strongest female Viltrumite in history, or a woman who can reshape reality itself? What if one choice could change everything? Not a choice made in the heat of battle, not a punch thrown or a word screamed into the void. No, a quiet choice, a rewrite of reality itself. We all saw Omni-Man break the world. We saw him break his son. We saw him leave. But what if he didn't? What if a power greater than Viltrumite rage decided he would stay? What if Atom Eve, with no limits, no blocks, reached into the mind of the monster and reminded him how to be a man? This is that world, 1 month later, and the consequences of that choice are just beginning. The desert sun is an unforgiving hammer. It beats down on 2 figures, miles from anything, from anyone, a father and a son. Nolan Grayson stands opposite his boy, Mark, the iconic white and red of his Omni-Man suit, a stark contrast to the endless red rock. Mark, in his own blue and yellow, bounces on the balls of his feet, ready, eager. This is supposed to be training, a tune-up, but something is wrong. Mark lunges, a blur of motion that would shatter a tank. He throws a right cross, a punch filled with a month of anger, confusion, and fear. Nolan catches it. His hand closes around Mark's fist, stopping it dead. There's no shockwave. No crater forms beneath their feet. There is only the quiet, dead-end thud of a son's rage hitting a wall of guilt.
Nolan doesn't counter. He just holds the punch, his blue eyes filled with something Mark has never seen in them before. Hesitation.
Come on, Mark grits out, pulling his hand back. Fight me, for real. How am I supposed to get stronger if you treat me like glass? He comes again, a flurry of blows, left, right, and uppercut. Each one is a sonic boom waiting to happen, and each one is parried, deflected, blocked. Nolan moves with a strange, deliberate slowness. He's not fighting to win. He's not even fighting to train. He's fighting not to break something. He is consciously, painfully, restraining every ounce of his Viltrumite physiology. Every instinct screaming at him to dominate is being throttled by a force even stronger. Memory. The memory of what he did to this boy. You're holding back, Mark shouts, his frustration boiling over. He dodges a half-hearted shove and sweeps Nolan's legs. The Viltrumite hits the ground, but it's a controlled fall. He doesn't even raise a dust cloud. It's pathetic. Mark stands over him, chest heaving. What is this? Are you afraid? After everything you did, after beating me half to death in front of the whole world, now you're afraid to fight me. Nolan looks up from the ground, the sun glinting off his black hair. The powerful jaw, the chiseled features, they look fragile. He pushes himself to his feet, the invincible Omni-Man looking anything but. Yes, Nolan says, and the word is quiet. So quiet, it's almost lost in the desert wind. I am. He looks at his own hands. The hands that crushed cities. The hands that nearly killed his son. Mark, I'm terrified. Every second, I see it. I see what I did to you. The thought of hurting you again. He can't finish the sentence. And in that moment, the fight drains out of Mark. The anger that has been his constant companion for a month, it doesn't vanish, but it shifts. It makes room for something else, a cautious, disbelieving pity. He's not looking at Omni-Man, conqueror of worlds. He's looking at his dad, lost, broken, and just as scared as he is. The spar is over. Nothing was learned about fighting, but everything was learned about the man in front of him. While one god learns to fear his own power, another is about to discover the temptation of hers.
Thousands of miles away, Samantha Eve Wilkins is on the couch with her mother, Polly. The TV is on, the volume low. It's a scene of pure chaos. Mount Etna, in Italy, isn't just erupting, it's exploding. A plume of ash blots out the sun. Rivers of molten rock pour down its sides, consuming everything. News helicopters circle from a safe distance, their cameras showing tiny villages directly in the path of the unstoppable lava flow. The reporter's voice is frantic. Evacuations are underway, but authorities say they will never get everyone out in time. We are looking at a humanitarian disaster on an unprecedented scale. Thousands of lives are at risk. There is simply nothing anyone can do. Polly gasps, her hand flying to her mouth. Oh, those poor people. Eve says nothing, her green eyes are fixed on the screen. She watches the fire, the smoke, the panic. She sees the problem, and she knows the solution. The reporter's words echo in her head. Nothing anyone can do. A lie. She stands up, her expression calm, almost serene. I'll be right back, she says, placing a gentle hand on her mother's shoulder. Before Polly can even ask where she's going, Eve is gone, not in a flash of light. She just isn't there anymore. One moment, a girl in her living room. The next, a thought halfway across the world. On the television, the scene changes. The frantic reporter suddenly falls silent. The helicopter camera zooms in. The river of lava is slowing. The violent churning orange begins to cool, to darken. The ash plume thins, then dissipates. The ground stops shaking. Wait, the reporter stammers, his voice filled with disbelief. Something is happening. The eruption, it's stopping. The magma flow is solidifying. It's turning to rock. Right before our eyes. It's a miracle. Back in the living room, Eve reappears, just as quietly as she left. She sits back down on the couch, as if she'd just gone to get a glass of water. Her mother stares at her, eyes wide with a mixture of awe and terror. Sam, Polly whispers. Did you? Eve just nods, her gaze returning to the TV. It was easy. And that's the terrifying part. It was easy. A few moments of concentration, a conscious thought. She didn't stop the lava. She reached into it. She told the atoms that made up the molten rock to be something else. She rearranged their subatomic structure, lowering their temperature, increasing their density, transforming them from a wave of death into stable, inert basalt. A geological event that should have raged for weeks was over in 30 seconds. You can't just do that, Polly says, her voice trembling. Samantha, you can't just play God. Why not? Eve asks, and her tone isn't arrogant. It's a genuine question. I saved thousands of lives. What about world hunger? I could make food grow in the Sahara. What about war? I could turn every gun on the planet into flowers. I could fix it, Mom. The temptation hangs in the air between them, shimmering and dangerous. The power to solve every problem. The power to reshape the world into a paradise. But a paradise of her own making. A world without choice, without struggle. A perfect, beautiful cage. The weight of that power, of that choice, settles on her shoulders. And for the first time, it feels heavier than any mountain. Gods do not go unnoticed. Deep underground, in the sterile, windowless heart of the Global Defense Agency, Cecil Stedman watches it all. He stands before a wall of monitors, his lean frame silhouetted by the cold, blue light. The iconic scar on his jaw seems to tighten as he watches the playbacks. At his side, his loyal assistant, Donald Ferguson, holds a tablet. On one screen, Omni-Man. They've enhanced the satellite footage of the spar. They see the pulled punches. They see the restraint. Cecil isn't fooled. He doesn't see a father, afraid of hurting his son. He sees a kiloton-level weapon holding itself in reserve. Unpredictable. Unstable.
He could have leveled that entire desert with a single strike, Cecil says, his voice a low gravel.
Instead, he's playing patty cake.
What's his angle, Donald? Unknown, sir, Donald replies, his tone flat. Psyche vowels suggest genuine remorse, but with a Viltrumite, we can't be sure. Cecil grunts, his gaze shifting to another screen. This one shows the newsfeed from Italy. It rewinds, showing the eruption in full force, then the impossible, instantaneous stop.
He pulls up thermal imaging, geological sensors, atmospheric readings. All of them show the laws of physics being casually, effortlessly rewritten.
And her, Cecil mutters. Atom Eve. She just ended a natural disaster like she was turning off a light switch. No energy signature we can track. No radiation. She just did it. He turns away from the screens, pacing the control room floor. We have two beings on this planet with the power to shatter it. One is a repentant monster. The other is a benevolent god. And I don't trust either of them. He stops in front of Donald. For a month we've been watching, waiting. That's over. The waiting part, anyway. He looks Donald square in the eye. Activate the Prometheus protocol. Donald doesn't flinch, but there's a flicker of something in his expression. Sir, the system is still theoretical. We haven't run full diagnostics. There's no time, Cecil cuts him off. I want every asset, every satellite, every sensor we have focused. I want a network that doesn't just watch them. I want one that predicts them. I want to know where they're going to be before they do. We can't control them, but we can be ready for the day they slip. Donald hesitates for just a second longer, then nods. Yes, sir. He taps a series of commands into his tablet. Across the room, a massive holographic map of the Earth flickers to life. It's a web of light, data streams crisscrossing continents in milliseconds. This isn't just surveillance. It's a weaponized tracking system. And as it goes live, icons begin to appear on the map. Red triangles, alpha-level threats. One pops up over the Grayson house. Another appears over Eve's home, the protectors of Earth, painted as targets on a GDA map. Cecil has drawn his line in the sand, but he's not the only one watching. He's not the only one who has noticed the shift in power on this small, insignificant planet. Far above the atmosphere, beyond the reach of Cecil's brand new satellites, space itself tears open. A wound of impossible colors. And from that wound, silent and massive, a Viltrumite warship drops into orbit. Its trajectory is locked. Its mission is clear. They know about the girl who can rewrite reality, and they are coming for her. The silent watch is over. For hours, the world held its breath, staring at the pinprick of alien silver hanging in the sky. Global Defense Agency satellites tracked it. World leaders held emergency sessions in underground bunkers. But on the ground, there was only waiting for the hammer to fall. And now, it falls. Not with an explosion, not with a laser beam that boils the oceans. It falls with purpose, a controlled, brutal descent that screams through the upper atmosphere. It's a spear thrown from heaven, aimed at the heart of the planet. It doesn't crash, it lands. A concussive boom echoes across the Italian countryside, shaking olive groves and ancient ruins. The ground cracks, the air sizzles, and in the center of a newly formed crater of glass and fused earth, the Viltrumite warship sits, silent and perfect. And you know who's there to greet it. Invincible hits the ground first, a blue and yellow comet carving a trench in the soil. He's not the kid who fought his father anymore. There's a hardness in his eyes, a grin set to his jaw. He remembers what Viltrumite power feels like. He remembers the blood in his mouth. Seconds later, the Immortal arrives. He doesn't land, he hovers, arms crossed, his ancient eyes carrying the weight of 1,000 wars. He's seen empires rise and fall. This is just another Tuesday. But even he can feel it, the sheer pressure coming off that ship. This isn't a scout. This is an executioner. The ship's ramp lowers with a low, hydraulic hiss, and she emerges. She is tall, powerful. Her short black hair frames a face that is both beautiful and utterly merciless. She wears the traditional Viltrumite attire, a symbol of conquest known across 1,000 worlds.
This is Anissa, and she radiates an authority that makes the air itself seem thin. Invincible tenses, his fists clenching so hard his knuckles are white. That's far enough. State your purpose on Earth. Anissa's gaze sweeps over him. It's not a look of assessment, it's a look of dismissal, like a god glancing at an insect before stepping on it. She doesn't even acknowledge the immortal. Her eyes scan the horizon, searching, disappointed. I am not here for the children of failed soldiers, she says, her voice cutting through the tension, sharp and cold. I am not here for ancient relics who refuse to die. The immortal's eyes narrow. The insult lands. Anissa raises her voice, pitching it so it carries not just on the wind, but on some unseen frequency, a broadcast to the entire planet. I am here for the anomaly. I am here for the reality shaper. Show yourself, Samantha Eve Wilkins. Your emperors wish to have a word. Let that sink in. She doesn't call for Invincible. She doesn't challenge Earth's mightiest hero. She ignores him. She sidelines him. She calls out a teenage girl by her full name. And in that moment, Mark Grayson understands. He is no longer the center of this story. He's just a guardrail, and the real catastrophe is about to arrive. And then, she does. There is no thunderclap, no streak of light. One moment, the space between Anissa and the heroes is empty. The next, Atom Eve is simply there, floating a few feet off the ground, bathed in a soft pink aura. Her expression is calm, not tense, not afraid, just present. Anissa finally smiles, a predator's smile. There you are, the little spark that has caused so much trouble. I am Anissa. I have crossed galaxies to see the weapon that could unwrite the will of a Viltrumite. Eve doesn't answer. She just watches. Anissa takes a step forward, her boots crunching on the fused earth. Our strength is absolute, child. It is the fundamental law of the universe. The strong rule, the weak obey. Your power is a trick, a parlor game that allowed you to poison the mind of a great warrior. But it ends now. I will tear you apart, molecule by molecule, and I will bring your dust back to Viltrum as a trophy. She crouches, muscles coiling. Power gathers around her like a storm. The very air begins to vibrate. Invincible braces himself for an impact that could shatter a continent. The immortal prepares to die. Again. This is it. The fight for everything. Except, it isn't. Eve raises one hand, a simple gesture, almost lazy. She doesn't fire a beam. She doesn't create a shield. She just thinks, and Anissa's Viltrumite battlesuit dissolves. It doesn't burn. It doesn't explode. One moment it is there, the symbol of an empire's might, the strongest material known to their science. The next, it unravels into a cloud of harmless grey atoms. A puff of dust on the wind. Gone. Anissa is left standing in the crater, exposed, vulnerable. The wind whips around her, cold against her suddenly bare skin. The shock on her face is absolute. It's not fear, it's something deeper. It's the look of someone whose entire religion has just been proven false in an instant. Her strength, her speed, her invulnerability, all of it irrelevant. She was disarmed without a single blow being thrown. She stares at her hands, then at Eve. Her mouth opens, but no words come out. Your strength isn't a law, Eve says, and her voice is impossibly calm, impossibly clear. It's a cage, a set of biological imperatives coded into you at birth. You think you're strong because you conquer, but you can't even conquer your own programming. Eve floats closer, the pink energy around her soft, inviting, not threatening. Nolan is free of it now, she continues. For the first time in millennia, his choices are his own. He is learning what it means to be strong without being a slave to his own blood. Anissa is trembling, not from cold, from rage, from confusion, from a dawning horror that she can't even put a name to. What are you saying? Anissa whispers, the word catching in her throat. And now here's where it gets insane. Eve offers her hand, not for a fight, for something else entirely. I'm saying I can do the same for you. I can reach into your cells, find the code that makes you a conqueror, and I can turn it off. I can give you the one thing Viltrum would never allow you to have. A choice.
The silence that follows is heavier than any mountain. Invincible and the immortal can only stare, completely stunned. This isn't a battle of fists. This is a battle of philosophies. A war for the soul, fought with a single terrifying question. Anissa looks at Eve's outstretched hand. She looks at the calm, pitying eyes of the girl who holds the power to unmake her entire identity. She sees not an enemy, but a temptation more profound than any she has ever known. Freedom. A concept so alien to a Viltrumite, it might as well be poison. And for the first time in her life, she doesn't know what to do. Strength has no answer for this. Conquest has no answer for this. So she does the only thing she can. She runs. A sonic boom that shatters the crater glass. She tears through the sky, not with the confident grace of a conqueror, but with the panicked desperation of a refugee. She flees back to the cold, sterile safety of her ship. The heroes on the ground don't pursue. What would they even do? The war wasn't won. It was transcended. Aboard her vessel, adrift in the silent dark of orbit, Anissa collapses against a bulkhead. She's breathing hard. Her heart is hammering against her ribs. She looks at her reflection in the polished metal of the control panel. She sees the warrior, the soldier, the perfect product of the Viltrumite Empire. And for the first time, she questions if that's all she is. The power Eve demonstrated wasn't physical. It was conceptual. It didn't break bones. It broke ideas. How do you fight that? How do you punch a philosophy? Viltrumite doctrine has always been simple. If it bleeds, it can be killed. If it can be killed, it can be conquered. But Eve didn't even try to make her bleed.
1,000 years of training, of conditioning, of unshakable belief, all thrown into chaos by a teenage girl in a pink suit.
Her mission was to assess the threat, to neutralize the anomaly. But how do you neutralize an offer of freedom? Her hands shake as she activates the long-range comms. The connection is established, a quantum-entangled signal that crosses the unimaginable void to the heart of the Empire. A stern, mustached face appears on her screen. General Craig. Report, Anissa. Has the anomaly been purged? Anissa takes a breath, steadying her voice, choosing her words with a precision that will change the course of the entire war. General, she begins, her voice low and strained. There has been a complication. She looks out the viewport at the blue and white marble of Earth, at the home of the girl who can rewrite reality with a thought. The threat, it is not a weapon. A weapon can be destroyed. This is a concept, an idea, and it is spreading. I require more time. I need to observe. The line goes silent. The mission has changed. The invasion is on hold. Because Anissa, the perfect soldier, has just discovered that the most dangerous thing in the universe isn't a fist that can shatter a planet. It's a question that can shatter an empire. For weeks, the silence from space is the loudest sound on Earth. Up there, cloaked by the void, Anissa watches. She is a statue of perfect, patient fury. She sees it all. The heroes cleaning up cities, the government scrambling for answers. And she sees her, Samantha Wilkins, Atom Eve, living a normal life, going to school, laughing with her parents. Anissa watches this girl, this anomaly who can rewrite reality with a thought, and feels nothing but contempt. The Viltrum Empire doesn't deal in anomalies. It deals in absolutes, strength, conquest, order. Atom Eve is a question mark in the grand equation of the universe, and Anissa is the blade sent to erase it. But not yet. Grand Regent Thrag's orders were clear. Observe, understand, report. So she watches, she learns, and she waits for the moment to strike. She doesn't know that the greatest threat to her empire isn't the girl who can unmake atoms. It's an idea, taking root in a hidden lab, continents away. An idea born from hope. And we all know where hope gets you in a world like this. In a sterile subterranean laboratory that smells of ozone and burnt metal. Two giants stand over a much smaller man. They are the Mauler twins, blue-skinned, mountains of muscle packed into black leotards, their identical faces fixed in a shared expression of bored skepticism. Before them stands a man named Angstrom Levy, tall, slender,
with intelligent brown eyes that burn with an unnerving intensity. He's not a fighter. He's a thinker, an idealist. And right now, he's trying to sell the impossible. The multiverse is real, Angstrom says, his voice steady, passionate. Infinite Earths, infinite possibilities, and on each one there is a version of me, a scientist, a philosopher, a librarian, each with a piece of the puzzle. One of the maulers crosses his arms. The sound of biceps bunching is like stone grinding on stone. Get to the point, Levy. We're not here for a lecture. We're here for a paycheck. The point, Angstrom continues unfazed, is knowledge. Think of it, the combined intellect of infinite versions of myself, all focused into a single consciousness. We could cure every disease, end every war, solve hunger, poverty, entropy itself. We could save everyone. The other mauler scoffs. Save everyone? Who cares? What you're proposing is a dimensional transfer of consciousness on a scale that's never been attempted. It's theoretical suicide. Which is why I need you, Levy presses. Your genius in bioengineering and quantum mechanics is legendary. This machine, he gestures to a complex harness surrounded by humming conduits and glowing pylons, is my design, but you can make it safe. You can make it work. The first mauler taps his chin. It would require an immense amount of energy. It would light up every sensor array from here to the GDA headquarters. A necessary risk. And our fee? Angstrom Levy doesn't flinch. We'll be paid. But think beyond that. This isn't about money. It's about the ultimate scientific breakthrough, the chance to access all knowledge, to become gods of information. He leans in, his idealism a tangible force in the room. Help me. Help me save everyone. There's a long silence. The maulers look at each other. They see the greed, the ambition, but they also see the challenge, the sheer beautiful audacity of the science. The first mauler cracks a grim smile. Fine, but if your brain turns to soup, we're keeping the deposit. They strap him in. The machine hums to life. And across the country, every sensor at the Global Defense Agency screams. At the Grayson house, the alarm is more personal. A high-pitched whine from a watch on Mark's wrist. He's on the couch, trying to pretend everything is normal, but the tension is a permanent guest in their home. He glances at the readout. Massive energy spike. Unidentified source. Looks big. He stands up, ready to move, but a voice stops him. Nolan is standing in the doorway. He's not wearing a costume, just a sweater and slacks. He looks tired. Human. The Viltrumite conditioning is gone, suppressed by Eve's impossible power, but the memories remain. The guilt is a shadow that never leaves his eyes. Doesn't matter, Mark says, a little too quickly. I can handle it. I'm coming with you. It's not a request. Mark scoffs. I don't need a babysitter. No, Nolan says, his voice quiet, heavy. You don't. But I'm not going to sit here and watch you fly into something like that alone. Not anymore. This is the new dynamic. The cautious father, terrified of his own strength, trying to mend the world he broke, starting with his son. He's not Omni-Man, conqueror of worlds. He's just Nolan. A father trying to do the right thing, maybe for the first time in 1,000 years. Mark hesitates. He sees the sincerity. He sees the pain. He nods. Fine, but stay out of my way. Two streaks of color tear across the sky. Invincible in his signature blue and yellow, leading the way. Behind him, a figure in a familiar white and red suit follows, a ghost of a legend trying to find his place again. They move faster than sound, faster than thought, a father and son racing toward a disaster of their own making. The energy signature leads them to a nondescript warehouse in the middle of nowhere. No time for doors. They crash through the wall in an explosion of concrete and steel. The scene inside is chaos. The Mauler twins are at a massive console, frantically trying to stabilize the energy flow. And in the center of it all, Angstrom Levy is strapped into the dimensional harness, his body convulsing, as shimmering portals flicker in and out of existence all around him. Shut it down, one Mauler roars. I'm trying, the other yells back. Then they see them. Invincible, and Omni-Man. You, a Mauler snarls, grabbing a nearby steel girder like it's a baseball bat. Invincible doesn't waste a second. "Dad, the machine! I've got the blockheads!" He launches himself at the blue-skinned giants. The impact is a thunderclap. He drives one mauler back, fists a blur, each punch a sonic boom. This isn't a fight. This is a demolition. Omni-Man moves toward the console. He's not the same warrior he was. There's a hesitation, a restraint. He's afraid to break it, afraid to break everything. The second mauler intercepts him, swinging the girder. Omni-Man catches it with one hand, the metal groaning in protest. He doesn't shatter the mauler's skull. He doesn't rip him in half. He just holds him there, a look of pained resolve on his face. "We have to stop this," Omni-Man grunts, pushing the giant back. But it's too late. The fight is too much. Invincible slams a mauler into a power conduit. Sparks fly. Alarms blare. A single deafening siren. The containment field around Levy's machine flickers, then dies. "No!" Angstrom screams, his eyes wide with terror. The portals around him stop flickering. They tear open. Dozens, hundreds, infinite windows into infinite realities. And through every single one, a face stares back. Mark Grayson's face, but it's wrong. The eyes are cold. The smile is cruel. One is wearing a cape, standing on a mountain of skulls. Another wears a black and yellow suit, crushing a police officer's head. Another, his face a mask of pure rage, is tearing through his own version of the Guardians of the Globe. 1,000 marks, 1,000,000 marks, and every single one is a monster, a conqueror, a killer, a Viltrumite. The knowledge transfer machine doesn't just pull their intellect, it pulls their memories, their pain, their evil. All of it floods into Angstrom Levy's mind at once. The explosion isn't loud. It's a silent flash of white light that vaporizes the machine and throws everyone against the walls. For a moment there's nothing, just the ringing in Invincible's ears and the smell of burning circuits. He pushes himself up from the rubble. The maulers are unconscious. Omni-Man is already on his feet, his face a mask of horror. They both look at the center of the room. Where the machine was, something is rising from the scorched floor. It was once Angstrom Levy. Now, it's a nightmare. His head is massive, grotesque, swollen to an impossible size. His brain is exposed, a pulsating, raw mass of pink and grey tissue, crisscrossed with scar tissue and fused metal. His skin is a patchwork of burns and raw flesh. His jaw is unhinged. He looks less like a man and more like a tumor that learned how to walk. But the worst part is his eyes. The kind, intelligent eyes of the idealist are gone. In their place are two burning pits of pure, undiluted hatred, and they are locked on Invincible and Omni-Man. He sees them, but his shattered mind sees 1,000,000 others. He feels the memory of his wife's neck snapping in Invincible's hands. He feels his son being crushed by Omni-Man's boot. He remembers 1,000 worlds, all burning at the hands of the Grayson family. The hero who tried to save him has become the architect of every hell he has ever known. A sound comes from his throat. It starts as a low gurgle, then rises into a shriek that tears at the very fabric of reality. It is the sound of infinite loss, of 1,000,000,000 murdered hopes, of a good man's soul being flayed alive. "You," the monster screams, its voice a chorus of infinite agonized echoes. "I will have my revenge. I will make you pay. I will kill your family in every reality. I will make you watch everything you love burn." And then he's gone, vanished between dimensions, leaving Invincible and Omni-Man standing in the ruins of a good man's dream, staring at the empty space where they just created their greatest enemy, a threat not just to their world. Days pass. The world doesn't stop turning just because one man's dream of a better multiverse has curdled into a nightmare. Cities still need protecting, villains still need stopping, and for the heroes of Earth, the job is never ever done. Deep beneath the Earth, in the cold concrete heart of a nuclear missile silo, alarms scream a song of impending Armageddon. This is where we find them, the Guardians of the Globe. Not the new team, the original team. In this reality, they never died. They just got their asses handed to them. The Immortal, the man who has seen empires rise and fall, is on his knees, blood pouring from a dozen wounds that are trying and failing to close. War Woman's golden mace lies dented and discarded, her armor cracked as she struggles against 3 reptilian brutes at once. Black Samson unleashes arcs of raw electricity, but it's like throwing sparks into a hurricane. And Red Rush, he's a scarlet blur of motion, a desperate one-man rescue operation, but even he can't be in 10 places at once. They are losing, badly, and standing at the launch console, a grotesque 7-foot-tall humanoid lizard with a crown fused to his scaly skull, is King Lizard. He grins, showing 100 needle-sharp teeth. His claw hovers over the big red button. "It's been an honor," he hisses, "but I have a city to erase." One of his soldiers levels a plasma cannon at the Immortal's head, a final, definitive end. The green energy builds, the air crackles with ozone. This is it. This is the moment it all ends. The blast fires, and it never hits. A sonic boom shatters every light in the silo. A shadow falls over the entire battle. Something moving faster than sound, bigger than a truck, slams into the concrete floor, right between the Immortal and his executioner. The ground buckles. The shockwave sends villains flying. The dust settles, and standing there in the crater of his own making is a figure in white, red, and blue. His cape billows behind him. His eyes are cold fury. It's Omni-Man. The Lizard League freezes. The Guardians stare in pure, unadulterated terror. And a half-second later, a streak of yellow and blue lands beside him. Invincible. The tide of this battle hasn't just turned. The entire ocean has just been thrown back. The Guardians don't move. They can't. Their bodies are screaming for relief, but their minds are screaming in terror. They remember. Oh, they remember. They remember a room drenched in blood. They remember this man, this monster, tearing them apart. He is not their savior. He is their murderer. The Immortal staggers to his feet, fists clenched. He'd rather be vaporized by a nuclear warhead than accept help from him. "Get away from us, Nolan," he growls, spitting blood. "We don't need you." Omni-Man doesn't even look at him. His focus is absolute, pinned on the army of villains between him and the launch console. He looks at his son. A silent nod passes between them, an understanding, and then he moves. What the Guardians expect is a massacre, a red tidal wave of violence. They expect torn limbs and crushed skulls. They expect the same unrestrained, world-ending power that killed them once before. What they get is something else entirely. Omni-Man doesn't fly through his first target. He meets him head-on, and with a single, precise, open-palm strike to the creature's knee, the leg shatters. The sound is like a gunshot. The villain goes down, screaming, but alive. He moves to the next, a hulking brute swinging a spiked tail. Omni-Man doesn't dodge. He catches the tail, twists it, and with a sickening crunch, dislocates the creature's hip from its socket. It collapses, useless. Faster, stronger, but not lethal. This isn't a slaughter. This is a disassembly. He flows through the battlefield like a force of nature, but a force with surgical precision. A finger jab to a pressure point paralyzes a limb. A calculated blow to the chest cracks ribs and collapses a lung, but stops just short of piercing the heart. A villain lunges at War Woman from behind, and Omni-Man is there, grabbing the attacker's head, not to crush it, but to slam it into the concrete floor just hard enough to render him unconscious. He is a whirlwind of brutal, methodical, restrained violence. Invincible is right there with him, a blur of yellow and blue, fighting with a ferocity born of desperation and hope. He's taking his cues from his father. He's not killing, he's winning. The Immortal watches, stunned into silence. A lizard with a vibroblade gets past his defenses, the weapon screaming towards his throat. The Immortal braces for the cut, for the darkness, for the long climb back to the living. But the blade stops, an inch from his skin. Omni-Man has his hand wrapped around the attacker's wrist. He doesn't look at the Immortal. He just squeezes. Bones turn to dust. The blade clatters to the floor. Omni-Man shoves the whimpering villain away and turns to face King Lizard, who stands alone by the console, trembling. It's over in seconds. King Lizard is dangling by his ankle, his arm broken in 4 places. The missiles are safe. The world is safe. And the Guardians of the Globe are standing, alive, untouched,
staring at the man who tilled them in another life, the man who just pointedly and without a word saved every single one of them. Mark lands beside his father, breathing heavily. He looks at the conscious but incapacitated villains. Then he looks at the Guardians, at their shocked, confused faces. And finally, he looks at his father. Nolan's expression is grim, unreadable, but Mark sees it. He sees the effort it took, the immense concentration required to hold back, to measure every blow, to wield the power to shatter planets with the delicacy of a surgeon. It wasn't just a fight. It was a statement, a promise, and for the first time in a long, long time, Mark feels a flicker of something he thought was gone forever. Hope. But hope is a fragile thing, and in the quiet suburbs of Chicago, it's about to be strangled in its cradle. The Grayson home is quiet, deceptively so. For Debbie, it's a fragile piece built on the ruins of her old life. She's making coffee, the afternoon sun streaming through the kitchen window. It's normal. It feels like a lie, but it's a lie she needs to believe in. A lie that says everything might one day be okay. That lie is about to be torn to pieces. The air in the living room begins to shimmer like heat haze on asphalt. A low hum fills the house, a sound that feels wrong, a vibration at the edge of hearing. The light bends. The space between the sofa and the television rips open, revealing not another place, but a chaotic, swirling vortex of color and light. A portal. Debbie freezes, coffee cup halfway to her lips. Her heart hammers against her ribs. She's seen aliens, she's seen monsters, but this is different. This is an invasion of her sanctuary. A figure steps through. It's not a soldier. It's not an alien conqueror. It's a man, but he's been broken and put back together all wrong. His head is a grotesque, oversized mass of exposed brain tissue, scarred and pulsating. His body is a patchwork of different builds and skin tones. It's the man from the news, the scientist, Angstrom Levy. He looks at her. His eyes, buried in that ruined face, are shockingly calm, sane. "Hello, Debbie," he says, his voice a quiet, even baritone that doesn't match the horror of his appearance. "Please, don't be afraid." She wants to scream. She wants to run, but her feet are rooted to the floor. Fear, cold and absolute, has her in its grip. He takes another step into her living room, the portal snapping shut behind him with a sound like a thunderclap. He holds up his hands, a placating gesture that is utterly terrifying. "I'm not here to hurt you," Angstrom Levy says, his voice laced with a chilling, almost sympathetic sadness. "You are not the lesson. You are merely the teaching aid." Before she can process what that means, he moves. He's not fast like a Viltrumite. He's just there. His hand closes gently around her arm. His grip is like steel. And just then, they hear it. 2 sonic booms, back to back, rattling the windows of the house. They're home. The roof explodes inward. Omni-Man and Invincible crash down into the living room, landing in a spray of splintered wood and drywall. They see the scene in an instant. The monster, the woman he's holding, their wife, their mother. Rage, pure and undiluted, flashes in their eyes. But Angstrom Levy doesn't flinch. He doesn't look scared. He looks satisfied. He tightens his grip on Debbie's arm, pulling her closer. He smiles, a broken, terrible smile on a broken, terrible face. "Good," he says, looking from Nolan to Mark. "You're both here." The air in the Grayson home is thick with menace. Angstrom Levy stands there, his grotesquely swollen brain pulsing, a cruel smile twisting his features, and in his hand he holds Debbie. The lesson begins not with a punch, but with a tear in reality. A shimmering portal rips open behind Nolan and Mark. Before they can react, before they can even process the violation, Levy yanks them through. The world dissolves into a kaleidoscope of screaming color and twisted physics. It's not a journey, it's an abduction. They crash onto black sand. The sky is a bruised purple, choked with ash, and on a throne made of bone and twisted metal sits a king. He wears a familiar yellow and blue suit, but his eyes are cold voids. This is a world where Invincible won, and everyone else lost. Levy doesn't give them a second. Another portal. They're falling, dropped into the middle of a citywide battlefield. But it's not aliens. It's not monsters. It's Nolan, an Omni-Man who never left, his mustache clean, his suit pristine, standing over the broken bodies of the Guardians of the Globe. This world's Mark is at his side, a willing soldier, as they systematically execute Earth's heroes. The lesson is simple, brutal. This is who you are. Faster, another portal, a desert planet. Mark is fighting his father, but he's losing, badly. This Omni-Man is laughing, breaking his son's bones one by one, savoring the cruelty. You thought you were strong? He sneers. Another tear in space-time, a world where Mark joined his father without hesitation. They stand together, arms crossed, as a planet burns beneath them. They are conquerors, they are gods, they are monsters. With every horrific vision, something builds in Mark, a pressure behind his eyes, a fire in his chest. He sees the monster he could be, the tyrant he could become, and the rage is a physical thing, a scream caught in his throat. But Nolan is different. He sees these twisted reflections, these echoes of his own worst impulses, and there is no shock, there is no horror. He has already walked this path. He has already lived this nightmare from the inside. Levi thinks he's showing him a monster. He's just showing him a mirror to a past he has chosen to abandon. The psychological torture doesn't break him. It doesn't even crack him. It focuses him. The mission becomes crystal clear. Get Debbie. End this. Levi's lesson is having the opposite effect. It's not breaking the Graysons. It's forging them. Meanwhile, high above the earth, another lesson is about to be taught. Anissa hangs in the silent void of the upper atmosphere. She looks down on the blue marble, not with a conqueror's gaze, but with a surgeon's cold precision. This world is an anomaly. This planet, which should have been a simple conquest, is now home to a power that defies Viltrumite understanding. Atom Eve. To Anissa, this power isn't strength. It's a cheat, a form of control that subverts the natural order. Strength is earned through blood, through breaking your limits, through imposing your will. Eve's ability to simply change things, it's an ideological poison, a threat that must be purged. She descends like a meteor, a streak of white and grey against the blue. She finds Eve floating peacefully over the Atlantic, a serene guardian. You. Anissa's voice is flat, an executioner's statement. Your choice is a weapon, and you are a threat to the Empire. There is no more talk, there is only violence. Anissa moves at speeds that defy physics. She closes the distance in a nanosecond, her fist cocked back, ready to shatter Eve into a million pink particles. This is Viltrumite fury. Unstoppable. Overwhelming. The punch connects, and does nothing. It's like hitting a wall of solid force 10 feet in front of Eve. The very air has become a shield. Anissa recoils, confused. She strikes again, a flurry of blows that could level mountains. Each one is met with the same invisible, immovable barrier. The air itself is fighting back, thickening into a viscous gel that absorbs every ounce of kinetic energy. Is this all you know? Eve's voice is calm, carrying across the wind. Brute force? Anissa screams in frustration and charges, attempting to tear through the defense. But Eve doesn't need a shield. She manipulates the environment. A pocket of mere vacuum opens in front of Anissa, throwing her trajectory wildly off course. The friction of the air around her suddenly increases 1,000-fold, slowing her movements as if she were flying through molasses. She's fighting the laws of physics, and she is losing. Every attack is nullified. Every charge is deflected. Anissa, one of the most powerful beings in the known universe, cannot land a single blow. She is swinging at a ghost, a phantom who is rewriting the rules of the fight as it happens. She is getting tired. She is getting angry. And for the first time, against an enemy who hasn't even thrown a punch, she is getting scared. Back in the ruined Grayson home, the nightmare ends. Levi throws Mark and Nolan back through a final portal. They crash into what's left of their living room, and Levi is there, holding Debbie, his monstrous head tilted in triumph. "Do you see now?" he gloats, his voice a rasp. "The evil is in your blood. In every reality, you are the blight, the monster." Mark gets to his feet. He sees the wreckage of his home. He sees the terror in his mother's eyes. And the dam of his rage doesn't just break.
It atomizes. He doesn't shout. He doesn't scream. He just moves. He hits Levi so hard the sound cracks like lightning. Levi goes flying through a wall. Mark is on him before he hits the ground. The beating is not a fight. It's an exorcism. Every punch is for a world he saw burn. Every blow is for a version of himself he refuses to become. He is trying to pound the evil out of existence, to pulverize the monster that showed him the monster within. Levi is strong, enhanced, but this is something else. This is the unrestrained fury of a young Viltrumite pushed past the breaking point. Levi's face collapses under the onslaught. His bones snap. Invincible raises his fists for one final devastating blow, the one that will crush Levi's skull, the one that will end it, the one that will make him a killer. And then, a hand clamps down on his arm, a hand of impossible strength. Nolan is there, his face a mask of grim determination and pain. Not physical pain, the pain of a father watching his son walk to the edge of a cliff he himself fell from. Mark. Nolan's voice is low, but it cuts through the rage. Stop. Mark struggles, the fury still burning. He hurt Mom. He showed me. I know what he showed you, Nolan says, his grip unyielding. He's not just holding Mark's arm, he's holding his son's soul. But we don't do this anymore. We choose to be better. And in that moment, looking at his father, Mark sees not Omni-Man, the Conqueror. He sees Nolan, his dad, pulling him back from the darkness. The rage subsides, replaced by a shuddering exhaustion. Across the room, Debbie watches. She saw Nolan's face when Levi first appeared, the raw, undiluted terror for her safety. It wasn't the cold soldier, it was the man she married. And now, watching him save their son from himself, the first crack appears in the wall she'd built around her heart. The fight in the sky reaches its climax. Anissa, panting, humiliated, gathers herself for one final desperate charge. She puts everything she has into it, all her speed, all her strength, all her Viltrumite pride. She will break this witch or die trying. Eve watches her come. Her expression is not one of anger, but of pity. As Anissa closes the final few hundred feet, two things happen at once, with surgical, terrifying precision. First, the fluid in Anissa's inner ears is transmuted. The delicate system that gives all Viltrumites their perfect balance, their ability to fly, is thrown into chaos. Anissa is hit with a wave of vertigo so profound, so disorienting, that the world becomes a nauseating, spinning blur. Her charge falters. She tumbles through the air, completely helpless. Second, Eve clenches her fist. The very air around Anissa crystallizes. Nitrogen, oxygen, argon, they lock into a solid, transparent prison, encasing the Viltrumite warrior in an unbreakable cage. It's over. Anissa hangs there, trapped, spinning, utterly, completely defeated. She hasn't been burned or broken or even bruised. She has been incapacitated, neutralized, proven irrelevant. The crystalline prison dissolves back into breathable air. Anissa, free but shaken to her very core, just stares at Eve. The power, the control, the mercy, it is a strength beyond her comprehension. This wasn't a fight. It was a demonstration. Without another word, Anissa turns and flees. She rockets into the blackness of space, a warrior whose entire ideology has been shattered. The Viltrumite way, the creed of absolute strength, has been proven a lie. Back on Earth, the Grayson family huddles together in the ruins of their home, battered, traumatized. But for the first time since Nolan's return, they are truly united. A family forged in a shared nightmare, held together by a father who chose to save his son. And far out in the void, a conflicted Viltrumite warrior flies home. Her report to the Empire was supposed to be simple. Now it will change everything. Because how do you report a power that can defeat the strongest empire in the galaxy without ever throwing a punch?